The grand alien mansion stood high on the shining hills of Zelara. Its walls glittered with crystals, and its gardens stretched wide with glowing trees. From the outside, it looked like a palace of joy, a place where life was perfect. But inside, those crystal walls, sorrow lived quietly, hidden from the galaxy. The alien mother, known across planets as a millionaire of great power, carried a secret pain. Her name was Lady Vera, and every alien bowed before her wealth and her strength. But when the guests left and the lights dimmed, Lady Vera's heart grew heavy, because her only daughter, Leora, could not walk. Leora was beautiful, with soft silver eyes and bright hair like flowing starlight, but her legs were still unmoving since her birth. No alien medicine, no advanced machine, no healer could help her. Doctors from 10 worlds had tried, and all had failed. They shook their heads and said, "Her nerves are broken. It is impossible." Lady Vera's riches could buy anything in the galaxy: ships, land, jewels, even cities. But they could not buy her daughter's freedom to stand. And every night when no one was watching, she would hold her child close and whisper, "I would give all my wealth, all my power, if only you could take one step." The alien society whispered too. They spoke in shadows and corners. Even the richest mother cannot save her own child, they said. Her wealth is useless against fate. And these whispers cut deeper than any blade. For Lady Vera was strong in front of others, but inside she broke a little more each day. Leora, though young, understood her mother's pain. She would smile and pretend to be happy, but in her heart she felt guilty. She thought, "Because of me my mother suffers." Her laughter was soft, her songs weak, and her spirit slowly faded. Hope was a distant dream, almost forgotten. One evening, as stars glowed outside the tall crystal windows, Lady Vera sat in silence. Her daughter rested on a floating chair beside her. The grand dining table was filled with food, yet neither touched it. The air was heavy, filled with unspoken sorrow. It was then that a servant whispered news from the city. "Lady, there is talk of a human who does the impossible." Vera lifted her eyes slowly, her face tired. "A human," she repeated, almost laughing. In the galaxy, humans were seen as weak, fragile, and unimportant. Compared to aliens with great powers and machines, humans were often ignored. How could a human help where our greatest doctors have failed? She thought, but the servant continued. "They say he healed a broken wing of the king's beast, a wing all healers had abandoned. They say he made a blind child see. They say he does not use machines nor alien magic, but something else." Lady Vera's heart trembled, not with belief, but with a dangerous feeling. Hope. Hope was cruel, she had learned. It rose high and then crashed, leaving only pain behind. Still, a small fire lit inside her. What if the whispers were true? What if this human could help? She looked at her daughter, who sat quietly staring at the stars. Leora's face was calm, but her hands trembled as if she fought her sadness. Lady Vera reached for her hand and said softly, Would you like to meet this human?" Leora turned her silver eyes toward her mother. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, with a faint smile, the girl whispered, "Mother, if there is even a chance, I would like to try." That night, Lady Vera could not sleep. She walked through her mansion's halls, her heart torn between fear and hope. If the human failed, her daughter would suffer disappointment again, and disappointment was a crueler poison than pain. But if he succeeded, no, she dared not finish. The thought, it was too dangerous, too bright. Far away in the darkness of the city, the human was already on his way. A man with no wealth, no title, no power, just a traveler carrying strange knowledge and the quiet strength of his people. The galaxy did not believe in him, but fate was moving, and the first thread had been pulled. Inside the mansion, Lady Vera closed her eyes and whispered a silent, "If this human can give my daughter even one step, even one, I will owe him more than the stars themselves." And as the night stretched on, the mother held her daughter's hand tighter, unknowing that the days of sorrow were beginning to end, unknowing that the galaxy itself was about to witness the impossible. The news spread through the alien city like wildfire. A human had entered the land of Zelara, a place where humans were rarely welcome. He was not dressed in shining armor, nor did he carry strange machines. Instead, he wore simple clothes, his hands calloused, and his eyes steady. The alien stared as he walked the crowded streets, whispering to each other, "Is this the one they say can heal the impossible? Impossible, he is only a human." Humans in the galaxy were seen as weak. They had no glowing eyes, no powerful tails, no wings, no natural weapons. Compared to the mighty alien races, humans were fragile creatures of flesh and bone. But still, this one walked with calm steps as if he carried a secret no one else knew. At the great mansion, Lady Vera prepared for his arrival. She sat beside her daughter, her face unreadable. In her heart, she doubted, she feared, she hoped. "Am I a fool for calling him here?" she thought. Her daughter's silver eyes sparkled with curiosity. For the first time in years, the girl's lips carried a faint smile. The gates opened, and the humans stepped into the glittering halls. The alien guards laughed quietly under their breath. Look at him, so small, so plain. They expected him to bow, to tremble in front of the great Lady Vera. But he did not bow. He did not tremble. He simply nodded with respect and said, "I came because you asked. Show me the child." The aliens gasped at his tone. No one spoke to Lady Vera so directly. Some thought he was rude. Others thought he was brave. But Lady Vera only studied his face. There was no arrogance in his voice, no pride, only quiet certainty. That quietness made her uneasy, because she had seen many proud healers, many boasting doctors. They promised everything and delivered nothing. But this man promised nothing, and yet his calmness felt heavier than all their words. He approached the girl, Leora, who sat on her floating chair. She looked at him with wide, curious eyes. No one had dared to come so close without bowing first. The human knelt down, not in worship, but to look at her at eye level. "My name is Arik," he said softly, "and you must be Leora." Her lips trembled, unused to strangers speaking her name so gently. "Yes," she whispered. His eyes warmed, and he smiled. "Good, then we will be friends." Those simple words struck her heart like light breaking through clouds. No doctor, no alien healer had ever called her a friend. They called her a patient, a problem, a burden. But this human, he spoke as if she was someone important. Someone alive. Lady Vera watched in silence. Her heart clenched at her daughter's smile, but she remained guarded. "How will you help her?" she asked coldly. Arik turned his gaze to the mother. "I cannot promise miracles, but I can promise effort," he said. "I do not give up until hope itself gives up on me." The room grew quiet. Even the mocking guards shifted uneasily. There was something dangerous about such confidence. Dangerous not because it threatened lives, but because it threatened beliefs. For centuries, aliens believed humans were weak, powerless, unworthy. And yet this human spoke as if his spirit could bend the impossible. Lady Vera tested him. "Do you know how many doctors have failed?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Do you know how many world's medicines have been tried?" Arik nodded slowly. "I know, but I am not them," he replied. His words carried no pride, only truth. He was not like the others, and somehow everyone in the room felt it. The alien nobles, who had come only to watch him fail, whispered to each other. "This is madness," one said. "Does Lady Vera truly believe a human can succeed where we have failed?" "She is desperate, that is all," another replied. They laughed softly, but their laughter carried fear hidden within, because deep inside they wondered, what if the impossible truly happened? Arik placed his hand gently near Leora's lifeless legs. He did not use machines, he did not summon glowing energy. Instead, he asked her, "Do you trust me?" Her eyes widened and she hesitated. No one had ever asked for her trust. They only gave orders, told her to sit, to wait, to endure. But this human asked, and in that small question, he gave her power. I think I do," she whispered. nodded. Then we begin. The aliens leaned forward, expecting to see sparks of magic or machines come alive. But there was nothing, only silence. The human began moving her legs carefully, slowly, gently. To the aliens it looked foolish. Like a child's game, is this his great method? One scoffed, but Lady Vera's sharp eyes caught something different. Leora did not flinch, she did not cry out. For the first time in years, her face carried focus, not despair. Arik looked at her and said, "This will be hard, harder than anything you've faced, but you are not weak, you are stronger than you believe." Leora's chest tightened. Tears touched her eyes. She had been called weak her entire life. But this stranger, this human, called her strong. Lady Vera gripped the arms of her chair. Her heart wanted to scream, "Do not give us hope." But her soul whispered, "What if he is right?" As the evening darkened outside the crystal walls, the first session began. And though no miracle appeared in that moment, something far more dangerous had been born. Hope had returned to the mansion, and once hope enters, the impossible can no longer be kept away. The crystal sun of Zaylara rose the next morning, its golden light spilling through the tall windows of the mansion. The alien servants whispered, in the corridors, their voices sharp with laughter and doubt. "Today the human will fail," one said. "He will give up like the rest." Another replied. But hidden in the deepest chamber, far from their whispers, a strange scene was unfolding. Arik the human sat on the floor beside Leora's floating chair. There were no glowing machines, no healing beams, no alien medicines, only his hands, his quiet voice, and his endless patience. Lady Vera stood. Behind them, arms crossed, her eyes hard as stone. She wanted to believe, but she feared hope would only destroy her again. "Leora," Arik said softly, "I need you to focus on your toes." The girl blinked in confusion. "My toes?" she asked, almost laughing. Her legs had never obeyed her, never moved. They were dead weight since birth. "Yes," he replied. "Close your eyes. Imagine them. See them in your mind. And try." It sounded foolish to the alien guards, who peeked through the door. They smirked and whispered, "He plays children's games, this is not healing." But Leora obeyed, her silver eyes closing as she tried to imagine movement. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Her lips trembled. Tears forming. "I can't," she whispered. But Arik shook his head. "Not can't, only not yet." His words were simple, but they struck deep. No healer had ever spoken with such patience. No doctor had ever said, "Not yet." They had all said, "Impossible." Lady Vera felt her chest tighten, her breath quicken. This human, with no powers, dared to fight the word impossible. Day after day he worked. He lifted her legs gently, bending and stretching. He guided her hands to touch them, telling her, "Feel, remember, connect." He spoke not to her body but to her spirit. "You are more than this chair, Leora. Your body listens if your heart commands." The servants grew restless. "This is useless," they whispered. "This human wastes her time." But one night, as the moons glowed silver, something changed. Leora sat with Arik in silence, focusing again on her toes, her brow furrowed. Her breath heavy, sweat beading on her forehead. Arik whispered, "Do not stop, do not doubt, fight." Then, suddenly, so small it almost went unnoticed, her toe twitched, just once, like the flicker of a dying flame. But it moved. Her eyes flew open, her mouth gasped. "Mother, I felt it," she cried. Lady Vera staggered forward, her hand covering her mouth. She had seen it too, the tiniest twitch, but it was real. Her daughter's leg, dead for years, had listened at last. Arik only smiled, his eyes calm. "This is the beginning," he said. The servants, once mocking, grew pale with shock. They rushed away, whispering, "It cannot be, it cannot." But it was. The next days were harder. Progress was slow, painful, exhausting. Leora cried often, her body weak and trembling. But each time she said, "I can't." Arik's voice cut through, "Not can't, only not yet." His patience never broke. His voice never wavered. Lady Vera watched, her heart caught between fear and rising hope. At night, she sat alone, whispering to herself, "What if he truly succeeds? What if my daughter walks?" The thought was so bright, so dangerous that she wept, for hope once dead had returned like fire. The alien nobles returned to watch. They filled the chamber, mocking and sneering. "Show us your miracle, human," they said. They expected a show of lights, of magic, of technology. But instead they saw sweat, tears, and endless small movements. They laughed. "This is nothing. This is foolishness." But when they looked at Leora's face, their laughter died, for the girl's eyes no longer held despair. They burned with determination. Day after day her strength grew. She moved her toes, then her ankles, then her knees. Each small victory filled the mansion with gasps and tears. Each tiny movement was a war won against fate itself, and always beside her the human whispered, "Again, again, again." The galaxy had taught the aliens that strength was in power, in weapons, in riches. But this human taught them another truth. Strength was in patience, in belief, in refusing to surrender. Lady Vera began to understand. Her wealth had built cities, but it could not build hope. Yet this fragile human, with nothing but his hands and words, was rebuilding her daughter's future step by step. One evening, after weeks of struggle, Arik stood and faced Lady Vera. "Your daughter will walk," he said simply. No one had ever spoken those words before. The mother trembled, her eyes filled with tears. "How can you be so sure?" she whispered. Arik smiled, not with pride, but with certainty. "Because I have seen her spirit, and her spirit is stronger than her chains." The room grew silent. Even the nobles who came to mock felt a strange chill, for in that moment, they realized the human's method was not madness. It was faith turned into action, and faith once lit could never be stopped. The mansion of Lady Vera grew restless as the days passed. What had once been a house of silence and sorrow now carried strange whispers. Servants spoke in corners, guards exchanged nervous glances, and nobles argued in secret. Because the impossible was no longer just a dream. It had begun. Leora's tiny toe twitch had shaken the galaxy of Zelara more than 1,000 wars. It was small, it was fragile, but it was real. And once something impossible becomes real, even for a moment, nothing can return to the way it was. Still, Lady Vera told no one outside the mansion. She feared the galaxy's cruel tongue. If she spoke too soon, they would call it a trick, a lie, or madness. So she locked the truth inside her crystal walls, keeping her daughter's progress a secret treasure. Every day, Arik worked patiently with Leora. He made her lift her legs with her own hands, bend her knees, stretch her muscles. He told her stories of humans, soldiers who survived when all hope was lost, children who learned to run after being broken, women and men who refused to bow to fate. "Your body is not your prison," he whispered. "It is waiting for you to command it." Leora listened, her heart burning brighter with every session. At first she trembled with fear, thinking every attempt would fail. But slowly she began to believe. Her toes moved again, then her ankles bent. Each movement was small, but to her it was like climbing mountains, and each time she succeeded, her silver eyes filled with tears of joy. At night, when the halls were quiet, she practiced in secret. Lady Vera would find her sitting on her bed, staring at her legs with fierce determination. She would whisper to herself, "Move, move. I will not give up." Sometimes her legs obeyed with a small twitch, and she would smile through her tears. The alien mother would stand in the doorway, her heart trembling. For years she had seen her daughter only in despair, but now she saw a fire rising inside her. Still, the outside world remained cruel. Nobles who visited laughed at Lady Vera's decision to keep the human. "Why waste your time on him?" they sneered. "He is weak. His kind is weak. Only fools believe in humans." Lady Vera stayed silent, but inside her rage burned. If they knew the truth, they would not laugh. If they saw her daughter's trembling knees and her growing strength, They would bow instead of mock. But Vera chose silence. She wanted the world to see the truth only when it could no longer be denied. She wanted their shock to strike like thunder, to silence every cruel whisper at once. Arik's methods were strange to the aliens. He used no machines, no glowing energy. He taught Leora to fight her own fear, to command her body step by step. He told her, "Every tear you shed is a battle won. Every ache in your body is proof that you are alive." And Leora began to understand. Pain was no longer her enemy. Pain was proof of progress. Lady Vera began to change too. Her cold mask started to crack when she saw her daughter lifting. Her legs with her own strength, she wept in secret. When she saw her daughter's smile returning, she felt joy she thought was dead. For the first time in years, she dared to dream of walking hand in hand with her child, but fear still haunted her. What if it ends here? She thought at night, staring at the stars. What if progress stops? What if this hope breaks again? The weight of such questions nearly crushed her. But then she would remember Arik's voice, steady and calm. Not can't, only not yet. One evening, when the nobles gathered for a small feast, Lady Vera kept her daughter hidden. She feared their sharp tongues, their cruel eyes. But Leora, with her new courage, whispered to her mother, "Why do you hide me? Let them see my strength." Vera's hands trembled. "Not yet, child, not yet," she said. Her daughter nodded, but inside she burned with the desire to prove herself. That night, when everyone slept, Leora tried again alone. Her hands pressed hard against the bed frame, her arms shaking, sweat pouring down her face. She whispered fiercely, "Move. I command you. Move." Her knees bent slightly, her legs shifted with painful effort, and then she lifted herself halfway up before collapsing with a cry. But she did not cry from pain, she cried from joy, because for the first time in her life she had almost risen. When Arik found her the next morning, she was exhausted but smiling. "I almost stood," she whispered, her voice weak but proud. Arik knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You will stand," he said calmly, "and when you do, the galaxy will tremble." Lady Vera heard those words, and her heart pounded. She could no longer deny it. The impossible was no longer a dream, it was on its way, and though fear still lived in her, hope had become stronger. Her secret progress would not remain hidden forever. The day would soon come when the galaxy itself would see what she had seen, and when that day arrived, every cruel whisper would turn into gasps of awe. The day of the grand feast arrived. The mansion of Lady Vera glowed brighter than ever before, its crystal towers shining under the twin suns. Nobles from across Zelara gathered, their robes glittering, their voices sharp with pride and gossip. They came to taste her food, to see her wealth, and most of all, to mock her hidden pain. For years they had whispered behind her back, "The richest mother in the galaxy cannot heal her child. She has jewels, ships, armies, but no cure for her daughter's broken legs." And Lady Vera had endured their cruelty in silence, her heart burning with grief, but today felt different, because hidden deep in her soul she carried a dangerous secret. Her daughter had begun to move, not much, not yet, but enough to awaken a hope she could not kill, and that hope terrified her, for tonight the eyes of the galaxy would be on her again. In the private chambers, Leora sat nervously on her floating chair, her silver eyes sparkled with determination. She whispered to Arik, "I want to try. I want them to see." The human knelt before her, his calm eyes steady. "Not for them," he said gently. "For you. Always for you." Lady Vera entered, dressed in robes of deep gold, her face as sharp as steel. She looked at her daughter, then at Arik. Her voice trembled, though she tried to sound cold. "Do not give me false hope tonight. If she fails in front of them, they will tear her apart with laughter." Arik only bowed his head slightly, then let her rise, not for their eyes, but for her own spirit. The music of the feast echoed through the grand hall. Plates of shining food floated across long tables. The nobles laughed loudly, raising their cups. And when Lady Vera entered, silence fell. All eyes turned to her, waiting to see if her crippled child would appear as well. At first, she kept Leora hidden behind the curtains. Her heart battled between fear and courage, but then her daughter's voice whispered behind her, "Mother, let me stand." Those words pierced deeper than any blade. With a trembling hand, Vera nodded, and the curtain drew back. Gasps spread across the hall as Leora appeared. "The nobles," whispered with mocking smiles. "There she is, still broken, still weak." But their laughter faded when they noticed the human beside her. The outsider, the weakling, the human healer who dared to stand in their halls. Arik looked at Leora, his voice steady and low. "Are you ready?" Her hand shook, her body trembled, but her eyes burned like fire. "Yes," she whispered. "I am ready." The hall grew silent, every alien leaning forward. Lady Vera clutched the edge of her chair so tightly her fingers turned white. Her heart screamed, "Do not fall, my child. Not here, not now." But her soul prayed, "Rise, Leora, rise." Arik placed his hand gently near her arm, not to lift her but to steady her spirit. "Remember," he whispered, "not can't. Only not yet." With a deep breath, Leora pressed her trembling hands against the edge of her floating chair. Her muscles strained, her face twisted with effort. And then, before the stunned eyes of the alien nobles, her legs pushed against the floor. The sound of the chair scraping echoed through the hall, like thunder. Slowly, shakily, painfully, she rose. Her knees wobbled, her body trembled, but she stood. For the first time in her life, she stood. A plate slipped from Lady Vera's hands, crashing to the ground. The sound silenced the hall completely. She stared in disbelief, tears flooding her eyes. Her daughter was not sitting, not broken, not helpless. She was standing. Leora's silver eyes glowed with tears, her lips trembling as she whispered, "Mother, look at me." Lady Vera's knees nearly buckled, her voice cracked. You are standing." The nobles sat frozen, their mocking smiles erased. Whispers filled the air, sharp and fearful. "This cannot be," one muttered. "No healer could do this," another said. But they had seen it with their own eyes. The crippled daughter of Lady Vera was standing. Arik did not speak. He only smiled quietly. For this moment was not his. It was hers. Every tear, every tremble, every drop of sweat had led to this, and the galaxy itself could not deny it any longer. Then, step by step, Leora began to move. Her first step was small, weak, almost a stumble, but it was still a step. The hall shook with gasps. Lady Vera cried openly, and even the proud nobles could not look away. Her mother rushed forward, arms outstretched, and Leora fell into them. Not because she was weak, but because she had finally won. Lady Vera held her daughter close, her tears falling like rain. My child, you are walking," she cried. The hall was silent except for her sobs, and in that silence the galaxy changed, because that night, the impossible had walked before their very eyes, not by alien power, not by wealth, not by machines, but by the will of a fragile human and the spirit of a girl who refused to stay broken. And the nobles knew, even if they tried to deny it, nothing would ever be the same again. The hall was frozen in silence. Every noble, every guard, every servant stared with wide eyes, unable to breathe. For in the center of the shining feast, Leora stood on her legs, trembling but unbroken. The child who had been paralyzed since birth was walking. Lady Vera could not move at first. Her golden plate had fallen, shattering into pieces. But the sound of it was nothing compared to the shattering inside her heart. Her eyes blurred with tears. Her chest tightened, her voice escaped as a whisper. "My daughter, my child, you are walking." She rushed forward, her robes trailing across the floor. Her arms caught Leora before the girl stumbled. She pulled her close, clutching her as if she would never let go. Her tears fell onto her daughter's hair, hot and unending. For years she had held her pain behind walls of stone, but tonight the walls collapsed. The nobles gasped, their sharp tongues silenced. They had come to laugh, to sneer, to drink at the sight of failure. But now they sat frozen, their cups untouched, their eyes wide with fear and awe. One whispered, "This cannot be." Another muttered, "No alien healer could do this." And deep inside, they all knew the truth. They had witnessed a miracle. Arik stood quietly nearby, his hands folded behind his back. He did not boast. He did not demand thanks. He only watched with a faint smile as if this moment belonged only to the mother and daughter. For him, the victory was never about pride. It was about restoring hope. Lady Vera pulled back slightly, her hands trembling as she cupped her daughter's face. "Say it to me, child," she whispered through her sobs. "Say it so I know this is not a dream." Leora's silver eyes glistened with tears, her lips trembling. "Mother, I walked. For you." The hall erupted, but not with laughter. This time with chaos. Some nobles rose to their feet shouting, "This is sorcery. No human can do this." Others looked pale, shaken to their cores, because in that moment, the fragile image of humans as weaklings was breaking apart. Lady Vera turned her head sharply, her eyes blazing through her tears. "This is no sorcery," she declared, her voice filled with thunder. "This is the strength of my daughter, and the will of a human who refused to surrender." Her words struck the nobles like lightning. For centuries they had mocked humans as fragile, powerless, unworthy of respect. But now one human had done what alien science could not. The image of superiority cracked, and in its place grew unease, even fear. Leora clung to her mother's robes, her body weak but her spirit glowing. She whispered, "I will not stop here. I will walk again, stronger, farther." Lady Vera kissed her daughter's forehead, her tears falling still. "Yes, child, you will walk, and you will never be called broken again." The nobles shifted uncomfortably, their pride crumbling. They had no words, no weapons to fight what they had seen. Even the cruelest among them stayed silent. Because when the impossible stands in front of you, words are powerless. Arik finally stepped forward, his calm voice filling the hall. "This is only the beginning," he said. Gasps spread through the room. For if this was the beginning, then what else could he do? If he could make a crippled girl walk, what other limits could humans break? Lady Vera turned to him, her face streaked with tears. She bowed her head, something she had never done to any alien healer. Her voice cracked but carried across the hall. "I owe you more than wealth, more than stars, more than life itself." The nobles stiffened in shock. A millionaire alien mother bowing to a human. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble. For if Lady Vera could bow, then the balance of power was shifting. But Arik only shook his head. "You owe me nothing," he said simply. "Your daughter owes me nothing. Her strength was always within her. I only helped her find it." And with those words, he placed the honor back into Leora's hands. The girl's silver eyes widened, her lips trembling into a smile. For the first time, she felt not like a burden, but like a warrior who had won. Her first battle, Lady Vera held her close again, whispering through her sobs, "You are my pride, my joy, my miracle." The hall shimmered with the weight of her words, and though many nobles tried to deny what they had seen, none could erase the truth. That night the story spread beyond the mansion. Whispers carried across the city, across the planet, across the stars. The daughter of Lady Vera had walked, and it was a human who had made the impossible possible. The galaxy would never be the same. For the shock of a mother and the tears of a child had ignited something unstoppable. And in the silence of the feast hall, humanity's legend was born. The feast hall lay heavy in silence. Plates of food were untouched, cups of golden drink stood still. All the nobles who once mocked sat frozen, their eyes locked on the fragile human who had shattered their pride. Beside him, the young alien girl leaned against her mother, her legs trembling but alive, her silver eyes burning with new light. Lady Vera, once a figure of cold strength, now held her daughter with open tears. She did not care for jewels or for power in that moment. All she cared for was the miracle in her arms. And the miracle was not bought with her wealth, not built with alien machines. It had come from a human. Across the galaxy, humans were seen as weak. But tonight, weakness had turned into legend, for one human had succeeded where the greatest alien minds had failed, and the question began to spread like fire. If a human could do this, what else could they do? The nobles shifted uneasily in their seats. Their voices, once sharp with laughter, now quivered with fear and respect. Is this the true nature of humans? One whispered, they endure where others give up. Another answered, no power, no magic, no riches, only will. Arik stood quietly, his calm eyes steady. He had no crown, no title, no army. Yet in that moment, he was more powerful than all the nobles combined, because he had done what they could not. And power born of spirit was stronger than any empire. Lady Vera rose, still holding her daughter close. Her golden robes shimmered, but her voice carried more weight than her wealth. Remember what you saw tonight, she declared to the hall. Remember that it was not my gold, not your science, not your pride that gave my daughter her steps. Her voice broke but grew stronger. It was humanity. Her words rang out, like thunder, shaking every noble to their bones. Some lowered their heads ashamed. Others clenched their fists, angry at the truth they could not deny. But all of them knew the galaxy would echo those words, and humans, once dismissed as fragile, would no longer be ignored. Leora lifted her head, her voice soft but filled with courage. I will walk again, farther, stronger, and I will never stop. Her words silenced even the cruelest hearts in the room, for she was no longer the broken child of Lady Vera. She was proof of what humanity could inspire. Outside the mansion, the whispers spread. Faster than fire, servants carried the tale to the city. Travelers carried it to the stars, and soon every planet would hear. The crippled daughter of Lady Vera walks, thanks to a human, in taverns, in markets, in the dark chambers of alien rulers. The story grew. Some laughed in disbelief. Others trembled in fear, but none could ignore it, for legends have power, and this was the birth of one. That night, Lady Vera sat with Arik in her private chamber. Her face was tired, her eyes swollen from tears. But her voice carried the weight of truth. I built my life on wealth, on power, on pride, she said. But tonight, all of it meant nothing. One human gave me what no empire could. How can I repay you? Arik shook his head, his voice calm as always. I need no reward, lady. Your daughter walks, that is enough. But Vera pressed on, her voice fierce. No, you do not understand. The galaxy must know, the galaxy must see what I have seen. Arik frowned slightly. And what have you seen? She met his eyes, her own burning with fire. I have seen that humanity is not weak. I have seen that your strength is not in weapons or wealth, but in spirit. And that spirit can break chains no power can hold. For the first time, Arik's steady expression shifted. A faint sadness touched his eyes. Then guard that truth well, Lady Vera, he whispered. Because once the galaxy learns it, they will fear it. And when they fear it, they will try to destroy it. His warning hung in the air like a storm cloud, and Lady Vera understood. This was not just her story, not just her daughter's miracle. This was the beginning of something far greater, the beginning of humanity's rise. The next morning, as the suns of Zelara rose high, the mansion gates opened, and the people gathered to see. Leora stepped forward, her steps slow, her body trembling, but her spirit blazing. And when the crowd saw her walking, they fell silent. For the impossible had become real before their very eyes. Lady Vera stood beside her daughter, her voice ringing across the city. Remember this day. Remember who gave us this miracle, a human. The crowd erupted, some in cheers, some in fear, but none could deny the truth. And across the galaxy, the legend spread. Not of Lady Vera's wealth, not of alien pride, but of humanity, of a fragile race that refused to bow, of a single human who lit a fire that no star could put out. And so it began, the human legacy.